13 Tory MPs, including former leadership hopeful Penny Mordaunt, have written to the next Prime Minister to find plans to boost coastal towns. It comes as the population of young people is declining due to the lack of job opportunities. Our reporter Sophie Reaper spoke to the people in Blackpool earlier today.
They could have help with finding experience somewhere through jobs, then maybe they could get jobs more in their local area. I'm quite lucky where I live, as at the current moment there's loads of jobs where we are. But if I was to struggle to find a job, I would consider maybe moving away, getting a job where I get loads of experience, then coming back with my experience, and then maybe somewhere would be willing more to take me on.
I think as well, maybe colleges don't put enough emphasis on apprenticeships. When I was in college, it was a lot like university was the thing that was pushed towards you applying for university. Apprenticeships was never really something that was discussed as an option when I was in college anyway.
I went straight to uni from doing A-levels to study law, and then that kind of helped me progress into the career that I wanted to go into. So I suppose the government could add a bit more funding and make it more accessible for everybody to go to uni so they can get on the career path that they want.
More money to the place they live, more opportunities for everybody, as there's a lot of lack of experience for youngsters due to youngsters who haven't had a job before won't have as much experience as possibly an older person, so more funding, I would say.
So start concentrating on the young ones, put in more funding in a lot of schools, find a lot of play centres, centres that people can do things. Sort out the young people first, and then we'll build up, because right now,
That was our reporter Sophie Reaper. She was in Blackpool, lovely Blackpool. And I'm pleased to be joined on the show now with Ben Murray, who is the Chief Executive for Maritime UK. He organised the letter to government. Ben, tell us a little bit more about the impetus for this letter to government.
Yeah, good to be with you. I think, as you saw in that video there are a lot of people in coastal areas who feel that government isn't doing enough for them, and particularly aren't doing enough to make them able to stay in those coastal areas if they want to. We commissioned an opinion poll, and it was an observation that said 49% of young people are planning to leave their coastal hometowns and cities, despite the fact that most would want to stay if they could. And the overriding reason was a lack of well-paid job and career prospects. So we felt that through this leadership campaign, neither Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss has particularly spoken about the condition in coastal areas. And it's clearly it's a big issue, as your guests there suggested. So we spoke to a lot of coastal MPs, and they agreed and thought it was about time that we put on the record the need for a proper coastal strategy that responds to that condition that's set out there. But from our perspective, as the maritime sector, looks at the steps that can be taken to grow the contribution we make to coastal areas, because we are a massive industry. It's a million people, £100 billion turnover, £600 million of private investment each year. But we can do more, and we can create the good jobs that allow people to stay and create all the good stuff everybody else wants around it. Unless you've got industry, you can't have all the culture and the sort of the leisure activities that you need. So that's the impetus, and we're pleased that Tory MPs up and down the country signed that letter, and we're looking forward to seeing what the response is.
Well, I was very interested, Ben, when I looked at this issue around free ports, because I think that's the sort of thing that you want government to look into, that this was first talked about in the 1980s when Margaret Thatcher was in office. And that was actually to try and deal with the deindustrialisation of some of those areas. And there were a number of ports around the UK, including Belfast, that were given economic status at that time, an economic zone. It then was the licence weren't renewed in 2012 under David Cameron, but Rishi Sunak has been quite keen on the idea of free ports. Is that the sort of idea that you want the new Prime Minister to take up again right across the UK and along those coastal areas?
Yeah, I think maritime's certainly been a bit more prominent in government thinking recently. We've had the National Shipbuilding Strategy, we've had funding for decarbonisation, albeit not enough. We've had the free port policy, and you're right, that was one of Rishi Sunak's sort of flagship policies, and that was a recognition that free ports can play an important role in improving the economic fortunes of coastal areas. What we don't understand is why, if you recognise it's a good solution for the problems in coastal areas, i.e. needing to grow the economies, why you wouldn't make those tools available across the whole of the economy, because each part of the economy each part of the coastal economy, is facing a similar circumstance, similar harsh conditions, poorer life chances, worse educational attainment, and industry moving away. So, yeah, good policy, but let's not limit it to the 8 we've got in England and the others that are coming forward, we hope, in the rest of the UK. So we want to see that expanded. And really, it's about, you mentioned what these were in the past and what these might be now. The modern version we've got, it really is around a sort of a supercharged enterprise zone. It's not always about money. It might be about speeding up the planning process, improving rate relief, for instance, and the return on investment there is significant. It's doing really logical things to get businesses to move to parts of the country that they wouldn't ordinarily be and create those well-paid jobs, like in maritime, which pay £9,000 a year more than the national average and are 45% more productive. So unless you have that industrial base, you're not going to grow the economy and turn around people's life chances in those areas.
Well, Ben, thank you for joining me this afternoon. I'm a great proponent of free ports. I've seen them operate in other parts of the world in a very effective way. So I hope that you're successful in your campaign. Thank you for joining me.